Next, in our Capital Insight segment, Senator Pam Althoff tells us about her bill that will allow those who served as medics in the military to apply their experiences to becoming emergency medical technicians. We also hear from Carol Spizzirri of the Save a Life Foundation. This runs about 10 minutes. Senator Pam Althoff and Carol Spizzirri, thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. We wanted to talk to you about a piece of legislation, one of those that is part and parcel. We all focus on the budget and these big issues, but there's significant pieces of legislation that move through every legislative session, and this one has to do with utilizing, as I understand it, the experience that military people have in treating medical patients and transferring that experience. Can you just maybe give us a little bit better overview than what I just did?
What the legislation does actually is it recognizes that many of our men and women who return from active service have a great deal of medical experience and training. These are medics. These are individuals who ultimately are trained by our military in which to provide those kinds of healthcare services to their colleagues. When they return home, we really have right now twofold. One, we want to make sure that they find gainful employment upon returning home. And number two, we also have an issue here in the state of Illinois where in our healthcare services we have vacancies. We have a lot of areas that cannot find qualified men and women in which to provide those services, particularly with regard to emergency medical training, the EMTs that you see with our fire departments. So this legislation would actually recognize for the first time in, Carol, help me out, 200 years. In 200 years, the training that these men and women receive while they're serving in the armed forces. So when they return, they have a skill. We should be able to take that skill, give them gainful employment, and then also meet the needs here in the state of Illinois of providing qualified health care givers for those municipalities.
You know, and I'll just add, one of the stories I first did when I came to Illinois was the fact that there weren't enough people to ride on ambulances. As I understand, back then, maybe it still is, they're supposed to have 2 EMTs on an ambulance, and all these smaller communities had to get a waiver. So there's certainly a need, and that's been ongoing. Carol, we should say too, you are the founder of a Save a Life Foundation, the starter of that. Give us your overview as well as what impact would this have within the community of Illinois, just around as far as how much of a need is there again?
Well, first of all, I want to commend Senator Althoff for taking this challenge because it's never been done before, and also Representative Danny Burke. There is, like I said, never has this been done. This is something that the country can mirror from the state of Illinois and even worldwide, because even in England they don't transfer the credit hours or the experience of the military into the emergency medical service.
Let me jump in there because I want to emphasize that point. So this is the first time in the history of the nation this is being done, yes, and that it will serve as a piece of legislation that hopefully will be emulated at the federal level so that this can happen for all. And so for all returning military people, I say, who have been medics in the services. How did this come about? Give us, and I guess you've worked with the military. Just give us some of the background, how we got to this point. I mean, it's significant to say first time in 200 years.
Well, I'm pro-emergency medical service, have been for 16 years. Actually, the pre-emergency medical service initiative is where I've been the champion. But I was at a Homeland Security meeting in Oklahoma a year and a half ago and spoke with the president of the American Legion, who informed me that this was going on, that these men and women that come home get no jobs, none of their credentials are transferred over into any type of medical life, and that they have to start from scratch. Well, this is redundant. These men and women know more with the battlefield with suturing, and 97% of all the wounded lives are saved with these medics, and to throw that expertise away. So I did a lot of research, recruited a lot of my EMS infrastructure that hang around with me, and also recruited some good people to challenge this. And now, I may add, is Congresswoman Melissa Bean is also interested in picking this language up and taking it nationally, which Senator Althoff has offered to help.
Senator, there's some applications, I understand it, of this with the NIMS system. Is that something that you could tell us about?
I think it's just a difference of opinion that many of the individuals who are associated with the military field feel that there's not a necessity for men and women who are returning home who have already had this training to go and do an additional NIMS testing. I think from a state perspective, we have to have something. We have to have some assessment tool. We have to have something that we can tell those people that we serve here in the state of Illinois that we've done our due diligence and that we're going to be not concerned with the liability of an issue of just assuming that they have that training. So, it's kind of a conflict between what the federal government feels is already done and what the state of Illinois feels we need to do to be good stewards and to have an assessment tool where we know these men and women have taken some kind of a test or qualifying measure to provide these services to our people.
Not every piece of legislation needs money. Some of it is just cutting through red tape or establishing a new system. That sounds like what this is doing, but is there also any kind of a financial cost to the state here or not?
I don't believe so, no. I think actually it's a cost-saving measure, as Carol stated. We're actually going to take people who have already gone through a training
at a different
curriculum at a different level, and we're going to utilize that and be able to slide them into jobs before we require them to do redundant training. So it actually, I think, is a cost-saving measure.
And as you well know, Carol, I mean, that's what the whole Save a Life Foundation primary mission is, to save lives. It's gonna make us all safer on the streets and in our homes relative to having more EMTs.
Well, the infrastructure of EMS, not only in the state of Illinois, is fragmented, but it's nationally as well. And these men and women who return home will also have the ability to cross over into other states and not just have the regional EMS or the regional training that if they were trained here in Illinois, that's the only place they could go, because every state has its own infrastructure. But from Highway 80 south in Illinois, the lack of EMS is so great that it takes anywhere between 2 to 4 hours to respond. We're hoping the more...
I'm sorry, say that again?
2 to 4 hours to respond. There's not enough EMS in the state.
So if you call an ambulance, it takes 2 to 4 hours?
Yes, sir.
So much for the golden hour.
Absolutely. And further south that you do go, I mean, you're talking trains and distances between the hospital, which even takes longer once that EMS person gets there. So having a qualified EMT paramedic right there to maintain life until they transport that person to the hospital is so vital. You can't hold your breath for an hour. So the bystander's role is an important factor to this too, meaning the general public needs to know what to do to maintain life until EMS gets there.
Is there any website or anything if somebody wants, if they're a municipality and they want to get some information? Well, let me just ask this. Where does the bill stand now?
Actually, I'm going to run away very quickly because the bill is actually on concurrence today, and if we get to it, it's 1254. I think we're on 893. So hopefully today we'll actually take action. It'll be voted on and sent to the governor for signature.
All right.
And may I add, I hope that you will be there at the signing when the governor signs it into law with the senator and Representative Burke.
All right, Senator Pam Althoff, thanks for joining us.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois. If you have any comments or questions on our programming, please email us at illinoischannel@aol.com. Or if you have any questions about the Illinois Channel, please visit our website at www.illinoischannel.org.